Hi there. So I realized that a few weeks ago I said I didn't want to talk about politics. But in honor of the primary elections in New York and Kentucky today, we're going to talk about voting. In a good year, like a really good year, where they're like, oh my God, so many people came out to vote. About 40% of people of voting age don't vote. That is so bad that you could almost just wake up on election day if you're an eligible voter, flip a coin, heads you vote, tails you stay home and watch Mrs. America and think about how some people don't want you to have any rights. I personally love to vote. You get that little sticker, you get all the oh, you voted, that's great, kudos. And you never have to tell anybody how you voted. You don't have to debate with anybody. It's like your own little secret with yourself. Did I vote against rent control because I'm secretly a conservative asshole? I will never tell. But I will say, for all you folks out there who are voting. Voting is kind of like going to the DMV. There's always a long line, and if they let you do anything by mail, it's the most exciting thing that's ever happened. Also, like the DMV, the rules are a little bit different in every state, which they probably shouldn't be because it's so confusing. And aren't we all supposed to be enfranchised? Isn't that a thing in America? For example, in Kentucky, if you've ever been convicted of a felony, ever, you can never vote again. You are cut off. But in Montana, you can vote as long as you are not actively in prison. There's only 2 states where everyone has the right to vote regardless of your criminal history, Maine and Vermont, which of course, they also gifted us with Bernie Sanders. In 17 states, you have to provide an excuse to be given an absentee ballot, but 5 states hold their elections entirely by mail. What the fuck? Even worse, the rules for registering to vote are different in every state too. Most states have a deadline about a month before the election to register, but some states also require a valid voter ID, which means we've come full circle and you actually have to go to your state's DMV and get a valid voter ID. So if you hate voting and you hate the DMV, it's like a double whammy. So if you have to register, plan on registering at least 6 months in advance, which means this little soapbox speech is already a month too late. Good job, me. North Dakota is the only state where you don't actually have to register to vote. So the way I read that is that we are all moving to North Dakota, otherwise known as the Peace Garden State. How very zen. Now, where the voting and going to the DMV metaphor totally falls apart is that, I personally think of the DMV as, kind of a great equalizer. We all have the same experience at the DMV. No matter who you are, you wait forever, and everyone is a cranky asshole. And even if you're Elon Musk flying in on your Tesla, you still have to show up in person to renew your driver's license and take a shitty picture. Voting, on the other hand, which should be a great equalizer, is absolutely not. In the 2016 election, residents of Black neighborhoods waited 29% longer to vote than residents of white neighborhoods. If your state requires a voter ID, that means you have to go get a voter ID if you don't already have one, which usually means time and money. And if you have 3 jobs, a voter ID is probably not on the top of your to-do list. Today, in Kentucky, there are only 200 polling places across the entire state. In Jefferson County, there is 1 polling place for over 600,000 potential voters. For my theater nerds out there, if there's 525,600 minutes in a year, that means that if every voter voted in less than a minute, we could maybe get through that line in a year. Maybe. Granted, multiple people vote at one time, but even if you have 100 people voting at one time, that is still 6,000 groups of 100 people to get through, and there's only 1,440 minutes in a day for my math nerds out there. So I hate to get all conspiracy theory on you guys, but to me, this feels like there are people out there who don't want us to vote. They are afraid of us. They know that if we all voted, this country and the way that we're represented would look so different. So the moral of the story here is, if you are registered to vote, and if you can register to vote, don't take your right to vote for granted, and for fuck's sake, vote. Stay safe. Wash your hands. I love you guys.